What happens when pure evil speaks? Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, gave one final interview before his death, and what he said will send chills down your spine. No remorse, no regret, just darkness. Stay with us as we reveal the most disturbing words ever spoken from death row. The final interview, a glimpse into madness. Richard Ramirez sat in his chair, wrists chained to the table, eyes cold and unreadable. The prison interview room was silent, except for the soft hum of the camera. This was not just any conversation, it was his last recorded interview before death. His tone was disturbingly calm, almost friendly, as he spoke about his crimes like someone recalling old memories. He described breaking into homes, choosing victims, and the fear in their eyes, with chilling detail. There was no guilt in his words, only fascination. When asked if he felt sorry, he responded with a faint smile. Why should I? What shocked many was his complete emotional detachment. This wasn't a man broken by guilt, it was someone who embraced chaos. The guards watching from behind the glass said it felt like time stood still. This moment wasn't just an interview, it was a final descent into the mind of a killer. What he said about Satan and justice. In his final interview, Ramirez spoke openly about his belief in Satan. He did not shy away from the dark symbols he had once displayed during his trial. With a blank expression, he said, "Satan has always been there. He understands me." He claimed he never acted alone, that he was guided by something beyond this world. When asked about the justice system, he scoffed. Justice? That's just a word. It makes people feel better. There's no such thing. His words were not loud or angry, just cold and calculated. Ramirez insisted he was simply living out his truth and that morality was a lie. It was not a defense. It was a declaration. For him, punishment did not exist, only purpose. Those who watched the interview described feeling something strange in the room, as if the energy shifted when he spoke about the devil, as if Ramirez truly believed he was chosen for evil. The guard's secret. What happened after cameras stopped. When the interview ended, the guards prepared to escort Ramirez back to his cell. But before standing, he turned to one of the officers and said something that was never caught on camera. They do not know the whole story. The guard, who later shared this privately, recalled how Ramirez's voice changed, lower, almost like a whisper meant for something else. He then stared at the ceiling and smiled. The lights flickered, briefly dimming, and the room temperature reportedly dropped. The prison staff dismissed it as faulty wiring, but the guards said it felt different, like something had passed through. That moment stayed with him for years. He believed Ramirez knew more than he ever revealed, about more victims, or perhaps rituals no one ever uncovered. Whatever happened after the cameras stopped remains a mystery, but those present that day agreed on one thing. Richard Ramirez left the room with secrets still buried in silence. The legacy of fear. Though Richard Ramirez died in 2013 from cancer, his name still sparks fear across California. He was never executed. He never apologized. And in the end, he took many truths with him. But it was his final interview that truly cemented his legacy. A legacy of terror, defiance, and eerie calm. The footage still circulates in criminal psychology circles, studied for its raw glimpse into a mind untouched by empathy. Ramirez never begged for forgiveness. Instead, he used his last words to remind the world of what he was. Survivors and families of victims say watching that interview brought back their worst nightmares. Experts say his final words offer a rare view into the dark psychology of a true psychopath. For many, it proved that evil is not always loud or wild. Sometimes, it sits quietly, stares straight ahead, and smiles. And that smile is what people never forget, minds of monsters. Evil speaks softly, and its voice still echoes. Inside the mind, experts break down his words. Criminal psychologists have studied Ramirez's final interview for years, trying to decode what truly drove him. According to Dr. Helen Marshall, a forensic psychiatrist, his language revealed traits of narcissistic psychopathy, no empathy, no remorse, just a sense of superiority and detachment. He described his murders with almost poetic rhythm, as if they were achievements, not atrocities. His tone was flat, but his eyes were always alert, calculating. Experts noticed how he distanced himself emotionally by speaking about victims as they, or the bodies, never acknowledging their humanity. That's what made him so dangerous. The interview confirmed what many feared. Ramirez was not mentally ill in a traditional sense. He was aware, sharp, and fully responsible. What he lacked was not intelligence, it was conscience. That final conversation became a textbook example of how evil can exist with a calm voice and a steady gaze. Why the interview was almost canceled. Few people know this, but Ramirez's final interview nearly never happened. The prison board initially denied the request due to concerns over safety and the emotional toll on staff. Even the interviewer, an experienced journalist, hesitated after reading transcripts of Ramirez's past statements. He had threatened reporters before, played mind games with detectives, and manipulated nearly everyone around him. But Ramirez unexpectedly agreed to the interview under one condition: no edits, no censorship. He wanted his words heard exactly as they were. After weeks of back and forth, permission was granted under strict supervision. Guards stood just feet away during the entire session, and the journalist wore a hidden panic button. Even with all precautions, the atmosphere was tense. Everyone knew Ramirez had nothing to lose, and when he finally spoke, it became clear why the prison was hesitant. His voice, his stare, his words, they shook everyone to the core. Evil, unfiltered, was now on tape. Chilling details. He never shared in court. During his trial in the late 1980s, much of Ramirez's behavior was theatrical, flashing a pentagram, yelling "Hail Satan," and grinning at victims' families. But in his last interview, he revealed something different. Off the record, he spoke about crimes never linked to him, locations, names, and nights that weren't part of the official case files. He hinted at victims who were never found, and acts that were even more disturbing than what the media had reported. He described the thrill of knowing people feared him, how he would watch their windows for days before striking. These weren't the words of someone seeking forgiveness. They were confessions of a man who saw himself as untouchable. Some of these claims have never been verified, but investigators who later reviewed the footage said it opened up new questions. Was Ramirez's body count higher than we thought? If so, he may have taken those answers to his grave. His last words, before death. In June 2013, Richard Ramirez died of complications from B-cell lymphoma at age 53, after spending over 2 decades on death row. He was never executed. In his final days, prison staff say he showed no fear, no signs of regret, only that same eerie calm. His last known words, spoken to a nurse, were simple but disturbing: only change. Some believe it was just another cryptic statement from a man who thrived on fear. Others think he truly believed he would live on, in memory, in darkness, in legend. His final interview had already left a scar on everyone who heard it. Now, with those last words, Ramirez sealed his legacy. No apology, no comfort for the victims' families, just silence and a lingering question. Did he ever believe he was human? Or was he, as he once said, just a messenger of what already lives in all of us? Richard Ramirez is gone, but his words still haunt those who heard them. His final interview wasn't just a confession, it was a window into horror. If this video shook you, subscribe for more real crime stories that uncover the minds of monsters. Evil speaks softly, and its voice still echoes.